Okay, that intro. And obviously this topic today is going to take us in a couple different directions. What's going on, everyone? Chris back again with episode 38 of What Could Have Been in Wrestling. Let me just say this for transparency. I am recording this after Saturday night's main event, which is why the topic is relevant, even though it's not going to go up for a couple weeks. But shout out to Bill Goldberg, and I'm sorry that the network, or Peacock, cut him off right in the middle of his retirement speech. But this week, I want to take us back to 2016. And I want to talk about, what if Bill Goldberg didn't return to the WWE in the fall of that year? So let's go back and let's revisit, because the catalyst to Goldberg returning was Paul Heyman challenging Bill Goldberg and saying that Lesnar still thinks about that one loss he has to Goldberg and needs to get his revenge. And he told him, "You're not anybody, Goldberg, to Brock Lesnar. You're just next." And Goldberg came back the next week and he accepted Paul Heyman's challenge. He got a really good reaction for being shown on WWE for the first time in 12 years, as Michael Cole gave him a great introduction. And he was back and he told Lesnar, "Maybe I do have one more spear in me. Maybe I have one more jackhammer to give out." And he said, "Lesnar, you're not next. You're last." Which I really wish had stayed the case, to be honest. So, going forward to that Survivor Series, Goldberg did beat Lesnar in about 30 seconds. He hit him with 2 spheres, and then the jackhammer. And with that, he pins Lesnar, and the Goldberg from 1998 was back. This got a really good response, I think, because of some nostalgia, and because there was a really good build to that match going on, especially with a great segment on Raw. So I think people were excited to have Goldberg back at this point. Now, something going on Raw during this time concurrently was what I thought was the best act on Raw and the best segments week to week was the friendship between Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens. Now, with this, they had gotten together for SummerSlam that year and beat Enzo Amore, in Big Cass. Or maybe they should have called him Kenzo. And then their friendship really built in week to week. They were calling each other best friends, and their segments were always very entertaining. The vibe it had was very similar to what AEW did between MJF and Adam Cole with Better Than You, Baby. And again, also, All In happened earlier today, and that was very tough to hear. Hoping the best for Adam Cole. I really hope he's able to get back in the ring at some point. Back to this, though. So now we have WWE's version 7 years beforehand of Better Than You, Baby. And with that in mind, we have Jericho and Kevin Owens working together, while Kevin Owens, as a key point, is the undisputed champion on Raw. So, post-Survivor Series and post-Royal Rumble, as we go into 2017, Bill Goldberg in February of that year did challenge Owens for the undisputed title at Fastlane, which Chris Jericho accepted on Kevin Owens' behalf, much to Kevin Owens' chagrin. Now, there have been hints of tension between their friendship, but they always came out still as friends, and the angle was to continue even further. Now, as we go to Fastlane, what did happen was Kevin Owens had turned on Chris Jericho, and at Fastlane, Owens did lose the Undisputed title to Goldberg after a distraction from a returning Jericho, and they were off for their feud, and Goldberg, as the Undisputed Champion, went on to face Lesnar at Mania one more time in a losing effort, and like I said, what people thought was his last match. So now, if Goldberg doesn't return to the WWE, and we don't have him beating Owens for the Undisputed title at Fastlane, where do we go from there? Here's what I think could happen. So, going forward, if we start in the beginning of 2017, we can still have it where Kevin Owens defeats Roman Reigns at the Royal Rumble, and while Jericho is suspended in that shark cage, Braun Strowman can still give Kevin Owens the assist, and Kevin Owens can remain the Undisputed Champion. It was also around this time on Raw, with an assist from KO, Chris Jericho actually defeated Roman Reigns and became the United States Champion. So you can have it where they're both title holders. From there, to celebrate them both being champions, and to celebrate their friendship, they can still have that segment that they did February of that year and have the Festival of Friendship. Now going into this, obviously this was in Las Vegas, and you had obviously the big introduction on the ramp by Jericho wearing the, it was almost like a fedora hat, and he comes down and calls out Kevin Owens, and he gives them all these weird gifts, and Kevin Owens even tells Jericho, he's like, I can't hang these things in my house, I don't want my kids to see these things. And Chris Jericho, in a very serious moment, as we wrap up the segment, told Kevin, look, this has been one of the best parts of my career. I've really enjoyed working with you. You've made this a ton of fun. And he told him together, and that was the key, together, we're going to make sure you beat Bill Goldberg. So, instead, what can happen is Jericho can still have the segment of the Festival of Friendship, and he can tell him still, Kevin, look, I know that obviously being the world champion or the undisputed champion is important to you. I think it's important that I stay U.S. champion, and together we're going to stay champions. And also he's going to tell him, whoever is declared the number one contender at Wrestlemania, I'm going to be there and have your back to make sure you leave WrestleMania as champion. So he's looking ahead past Fastlane. From there, Kevin Owens can do what he did in reality, and that's give Jericho his own gift. And that gift happened to be a new list. Because what got Jericho over at this point was not just the friendship with Kevin Owens, but also he was doing the List of Jericho. And with that, he was putting people's names on a list if they got under his skin. And he did it to AJ Styles. He did it to the New Day. He did it to Santa Claus. But anyone who got under his skin made the list, and every time he would tell them, "You just made the list!" there was always a huge pop. So, with that, you can still have Kevin Owens give Jericho a new list. And you can have, obviously, Jericho be appreciative of it. But, also, there was the big reveal, because Jericho looked at it and then asked, wait a minute, why is my name on it? And then the big reveal on the back was, it said, the List of KO. Kevin Owens can then turn on Jericho like he did. Take him down, beat him up a lot, bring him to the outside, power bomb him on the apron, and then in the Shawn Michaels throwback from 2008, as a finishing touch, he can put Jericho's head through the TV screen, and that's what writes Jericho off TV. From there, Kevin Owens is again on his own at Fastlane, but now he's not facing Goldberg. So who's he going to face? the guy, and I think it's pretty obvious that he could face, would be another old friend of his in Sami Zayn. So instead of feeding Sami Zayn to Samoa Joe that night, you can have Sami Zayn challenge Owens for the Undisputed title. And they can play off, obviously, their history from Ring of Honor, NXT, etc. And now Kevin Owens is putting the belt on the line against his old friend. They would have a great match because those two always work well together. And there could be some close calls, like with the Blue Thunder Bomb and Haluva Kick, etc., where it looks like Sami might win the title. But in the end, with a pop-up power bomb, Kevin Owens can retain his title in a tough match, like I said, that can go about 20 minutes. Post-match, I think, is where when Owens is celebrating, the lights can go out, and you see the countdown, and we have Chris Jericho returning, jumping Owens from behind and hitting him with a chair shot. After Fastlane on Raw is where Jericho can make his intentions known, and he can challenge Kevin Owens for his Undisputed title. And the reason I was about to say United States title is because Jericho is still the U.S. champion, and I don't think the belt should have been on the line. I don't think it should have been title for title in this case. They can have similar segments where obviously they go back and forth verbally, where Kevin Owens reveals to Chris Jericho that he was using him the whole time. And at the advice of Triple H told him, you need to find basically a lackey that you can use to make sure that your reign as Undisputed Champion is protected. And Kevin Owens can say, Chris, you played your role to perfection. Chris Jericho can actually go and make it personal like he did and share some of the DMs Kevin Owens had sent him right when he got signed by the WWE, asking him for advice on how to, 1, make it onto the main roster, and 2, become a success. So now you have a more personal beef going into Mania. Now at WrestleMania 33, I don't think their match would have headlined anything because, again, Goldberg versus Lesnar was a mid-card match, even though it was for the Undisputed title, because the main event that night was The Undertaker versus Roman Reigns in that 7-hour WrestleMania, because it was only one night. So anyone complaining about All In, let's just remember how those Manias were telecasted. And in this situation, I still think we should have it where Kevin Owens wins and retains his title. So now that he defeats Jericho at Mania, it looks like he's going to try to put it behind him. But I think post-Raw, Jericho can want one more shot at KO. And with that, he can agree to put up his U.S. title this time. So now it's Jericho going into Payback post-Mania, putting up his United States title, and also putting his career on the line. With that in mind, I actually don't think Jericho should win a Payback like he did, because he then went on to lose to Owens just a few days later and be written off television. So what I think could happen there is Jericho should lose to Owens again. So in back-to-back pay-per-views, he loses. And post-match, you can have Kevin Owens attack Chris Jericho again and write him off television. So now Jericho actually is gone. He's off TV, and he's out of the WWE thanks to Kevin Owens. And Kevin Owens, as the top heel, is now a 2-title holder, the U.S. and Undisputed Champion. So now as the top heel, what would happen is I think we'd still have the draft, and you would still have, yes, as a double champion, Kevin Owens would be moved over to SmackDown. And this is where he was doing the Face of America gimmick as U.S. champion and had shaven his beard and had a little bit more of a clean-cut look. So I think now you have him over. Now basically both world titles are on SmackDown for a short period of time. And from there, I think what will happen is kind of like in 2005 when SmackDown didn't have a world champion for a couple weeks. You would have, obviously, Kevin Owens coming out as the face of America and the face of SmackDown, being the undisputed champion and being the United States champion. From there, the one to come challenge him on SmackDown, I believe, would be the guy who made a face turn post WrestleMania 33, and that would be AJ Styles. AJ Styles could come out and challenge Kevin Owens and challenge him as the face of America. And I think what would happen there is AJ Styles can, that night on SmackDown, on his debut episode, you could have actually AJ Styles defeat Kevin Owens for the United States Championship. And with that, I actually think that would be the first catalyst to Kevin Owens' downfall, because now he's only got his one belt, but of course it's Raw's undisputed title. But now Kevin Owens is still pissed because he has lost his United States Championship and he's no longer the face of America. And now you can have AJ Styles wanting to hint that he wants to also challenge Owens now for his undisputed title. And with that, you can obviously hint it that it could be AJ who becomes a 2 title holder. I don't think they'd move forward with that. I think you would still have it where, AJ is the United States champion, but Kevin Owens is still the undisputed champion on Raw. And how we would get him back on Raw, just to drop his undisputed title, is I think obviously post that SmackDown and post Payback, as we go into Backlash, I just think that obviously Paul Heyman could come out and cut a very Paul Heyman promo and remind people, look, this is obviously Raw and we need to have the undisputed title back where it belongs on Raw. And he can say, Kevin Owens, while I know you're now a member of SmackDown, you still need to defend that title on its proper show. And even though Backlash was a SmackDown pay-per-view, I think you can have a one-time exception, because the man who's going to be challenging Kevin Owens for that undisputed title, actually it does make sense because it's a SmackDown pay-per-view and you have the undisputed champion now on SmackDown. You can have Brock Lesnar challenging Kevin Owens at Backlash that year. And now it's just Paul Heyman saying once Brock Lesnar wins, he's going to take the undisputed title back where it belongs on Raw. So, with that said, Kevin Owens could come out and try to dodge the challenge and tell him, look, I'm on SmackDown, and Lesnar, you haven't done anything to earn the undisputed title. So he could try to avoid the match. But I think with Shane McMahon and also AJ Styles manipulating him and cajoling him, Kevin Owens, in a moment of frustration, can then, out of anger, accept Lesnar's challenge, but then realize what he done and realize that he's screwed. So moving forward to Backlash, you can have Lesnar versus Kevin Owens, with the stipulation that if Lesnar wins, the undisputed title is back on Raw. And with that said, I think you know what all happens here. Suplex City for Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens can get a little offense in, but I don't even think he would hit the pop-up powerbomb. And Lesnar can obviously hit the F5. And 1, 2, 3, Lesnar is now the new undisputed champion. And the undisputed title is back over on Raw. So this way you can keep Kevin Owens on SmackDown, wanting to continue his feud with AJ Styles now for the US title. And Lesnar can be the undisputed champion on Raw and sit at home for 3 months at a time before any title defense. So that's where I'm going to wrap it up. That's actually what I think would have happened had Goldberg not come back to the WWE in 2016. So we wouldn't have gotten those confrontations between him and Lesnar. It would have extended Kevin Owens' undisputed title reign. And obviously, it would have still kept AJ in a prominent role as US champion. And it would have delayed Lesnar's undisputed title win from Wrestlemania that year to Backlash about 2 months later. So let me know what you guys think of that. Let me know what you think of Goldberg's match against Gunther earlier tonight on Saturday night's main event. Just out of curiosity. Let me know how you would have booked it if that fall of 2016, if Goldberg didn't return to the WWE. And obviously leave your comments down below about any topic that you'd like me to talk about in the future. Also, if you could, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. And I'll be back soon, as always, with more topics of what could have been in wrestling. And also, let me know if you'd like me to continue the match analysis series as well. So, till next time, thanks a lot, everyone.